Kanupriya Rawat. I'm a PhD student in Department of Psychology at Kazimierz University, Bydgoszcz, and I'm presenting on the topic cross-cultural comparison of achievement motivation of sport players during the oral session. I would like to receive feedback on my dissertation work. The topic of my thesis is a cross-cultural and cross-contextual comparison of football players' achievement motivation in sports, competitive trait anxiety, and physical self-concept. By cross-cultural, I mean Indian and Polish culture. By cross-contextual, I mean traditional versus virtual football. First, cross-cultural aspect was introduced due to the cultural difference between Poland and India, which can be found in Hofstede cultural dimension theory. I'm interested in finding how cultural differences between Polish and Indian football players impact their achievement motivation, physical self-concept, and competitive trait anxiety variables. Is there any differences or similarities in the levels of achievement motivation, physical self-concept, and competitive trait anxiety? If there are some differences or similarities, then why? What are the reasons and factors behind that? Secondly, football players are taken as a sample because both countries have football as a team sport, which is popular too, and they play it on an international level. Football is played in India for a long time, but now it is getting recognition and audience that it deserves. While in Poland it is popular and players are also in designated football clubs. It will be interesting to know the level of achievement motivation, physical self-concept, and competitive trait anxiety, if it is similar or different in football players of India and Poland. This will be helpful for coaches, trainers, sports psychologists in both cultures to address the difficulties sport players are facing and to adapt advantages and sport policies of other countries to make performance of their teams better. Third, cross-contextual aspect was introduced as there is a new branch that is emerging and a lot of controversy is going on whether to call it as a sport or not. That is e-sport or virtual players. Nowadays, due to pandemic, there is a lot of digitalized sport events and trainings. Players faced a lot of difficulties during pandemic regarding training, especially in team sports. I'm interested in finding out the similarities and differences between the traditional football players and virtual football game players, like people who play FIFA 22 or eFootball. I would like to compare the level of achievement motivation, physical self-concept, and competitive trait anxiety. If it is similar or different in traditional and virtual football players, so that we can apply this knowledge to increase digitalization in sports for sport players. For this presentation, I want to focus only on cross-cultural comparison of achievement motivation in sports. As this is the first phase of my research work, I want to discuss the questions like, first one, which questionnaire I should use, as according to the systematic review done by us, most research works use popular questionnaires even though they are old, while there are new revised questionnaires and they don't have high reliability because a lot of research work use popular questionnaires. Second question is that what research work to use, like quantitative, qualitative, or mixed approaches, as only quantitative methods seem doable in 4 years of doctoral studies in my topic. Now, goals. According to first phase of doctoral thesis, these are the aims that I will be focusing on. First, what is the predominant theory and method to measure achievement motivation in sports psychology? Second, which research method is used? And third, what issues or challenges emerged throughout the evolution of achievement motivation in sports psychology? And ultimately, measurement of achievement motivation of Indian and Polish football players. To answer these research questions, we use systematic review. And then For the measurement of achievement motivation, we adapt chosen questionnaire in Hindi and Polish to collect data from respective cultures. Methods, I intended to use quantitative research method after discussing the possibility with my supervisor. However, I'm also thinking about using qualitative approach, and my supervisor disagreed to use this approach due to grim possibility to finish it in upcoming 2 years. But I want to compare the interpretation of my result according to quantitative and want to know if they interpret the same. In the first step, we did systematic review of the literature related to cross-cultural comparison of achievement motivation in sports. Then the adaptation of the 3x2 achievement motivation questionnaire of sports by Nicholas Musgrave, Andrew Elliott, and Franco Escuri into Hindi and Polish language that is in progress. We intend to take sample of 200 male athletes, each from India and Poland, in the age group between 18 to 25 years. We will take those players who are playing for a football club and have minimum 2 years of career duration, and they have intention to make a career in football. For research, results and discussion, the first research question asked about predominant theory, and we found that achievement goal theory and its extended conceptual framework like Elliott 2x2 achievement motivation are the most used achievement motivation theory in cross-cultural sports psychology. Many different achievement motivation variables have been studied over the years. Prominent among these variables are the following: achievement needs or motives by David M.C. Cleland and John Atkinson, achievement attribution by Bernard Wiener and Hans Hockenson, then achievement goals by Carol Dweck and John Nichols, and the last one is perceived competence by Albert Bandura and Susan Harter. These achievement motivation researchers seek to determine both the antecedents and consequences of these different variables. But Elias 2x2 framework of achievement motivation will explain the goals of the athletes if they are more oriented towards task or performance-based achievement motivation goal. Also, the 4 subtypes of achievement goals further explain the direction of achievement motivation of the athlete. Either it is approach-oriented, focusing on attaining a desirable outcome, or avoidance-oriented, focusing on avoiding a negative, undesirable outcome. About measures of achievement motivation, that is the second point. Achievement goal questionnaire sports and TEOSQ are mostly used by the researchers. These measures are easy to administer and cover most of the aspects of achievement motivation. TEOSQ, that is task and ego orientation of sports questionnaire, is also found effective in most of the cross-cultural studies on achievement motivation. Therefore, it is translated into many languages to get the better results on achievement motivation in context of respective cultures. However, I have the question if we should use new measures of achievement motivation, even though they have less evidence of reliability and validity, or use the old and popular questionnaires. Next is quantitative approach, which is mostly used by the researcher, then qualitative or mixed method approach. And the reasons for using quantitative over qualitative and mixed approach are that it is easier to conduct research as data collection is easier due to the use of questionnaires, and then translation of questionnaire to use it in different cultures is faster than interview. Then descriptive statistics used to evaluate data in quantitative approach, while in qualitative approach, we have to analyze evidence and artifacts from the research process, like codes, transcripts, memos or notes, etc., which is time consuming, and reliability of data interpretation is unsure. Then the next is qualitative and mixed research work or approaches are trending because they provide more space for researchers to explore cultural aspect, that is factors responsible for difference in the cross-cultural research, not just to show the number difference or the differences by statistics only. And then lastly, researchers faced following challenges in conducting cross-cultural research in sports, like representativeness of the sample, which is defining culture as typically individualistic or typically collectivistic. As common assumption is that people in the same culture are largely homogeneous. However, there was a possibility that individual differences within the different cultural samples might influence the data. For example, some cultures are complex, multilingual, and with diverse religions like India, which is also one of my concerns if I need to consider both between and within group differences when investigating the cross-cultural differences. And the second is difference in sample size, type of sport compared across countries, and just small data samples as they affect the precision and validity of the result. According to the review, some studies reported convenience sampling and lack of random sampling as a limitation in the research. To solve this issue, cross-cultural studies with equal and larger sample size would help to establish the invariance of scales and reliable studies, and that's why I took equal and large samples. Conceptual ethnocentrism is the third one, and this is the challenge that I'm wary of, is that instruments developed in the West were translated into different cultural language. Even though many studies have provided evidence about the validity and reliability of the instruments translated into another culture or language, but there is no guarantee that the questionnaire captured the exact same construct for both the groups. The validity of the test may be compromised if the implied meaning in the concept are not understood, as they are complex and might subject it to researchers' bias and become a matter of intuitive judgment. My concern for this challenge is if we can use different research methods, like conducting quantitative research or using culture-specific measurements to preserve the psychometric properties of these linguistic versions. To conclude my presentation, I would like to discuss these questions. So first question is to use popular measures, which are old, like most research works, or to use new and popular recent measures of achievement motivation, even though they have few evidence of reliability and validity. My second question is what research work to use, like quantitative or mixed methods, as only quantitative methods seem doable in 4 years of doctoral studies in my topic. Third question is like some cultures are complex, multilingual with diverse religions like India, which is my concern if I need to consider both between and within group differences when investigating the cross-cultural differences. And last one is if we can use different research methods like conducting qualitative research or using culture-specific measurements to preserve the psychometric properties of linguistic versions. Thank you so much for listening so patiently. And if you have any questions, please let me know through the discussion.